Just a minute, bro. There is some technical. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ekam karoti vachalam pangum langayate grimet kripatamaham viste Shri Paramananda Madhava Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Jai Nitai Gauranga Krishna, everyone. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, entitled "The Gopis Glorify the Song of Krishna's Flute." It's the famous Venu Gita. So this chapter describes how Lord Shri Krishna entered the enchanting forest of Vrindavan upon the arrival of autumn, and the praises the young cowherd girls sang when they heard the vibration of his flute. So that is the subject matter of this particular chapter. So reading the verses. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ittam Sharat Swacha Jalam Padmakara Sugandhina Nyavishad Vayuna Vatam Sagopa Gopalako Achyutaha. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus the Vrindavan forest was filled with transparent autumnal waters and cooled by breezes perfumed with the fragrance of lotus flowers growing in the clear lakes. The infallible Lord, accompanied by his cows and cowherd boyfriends, entered that Vrindavan forest. Kusumita Vanaraji Shushmi Bringa Dvijakula Gushta Sarin Mahidram Madhupatir Avaghaya Charayanga Saha Pashupala Balas Chukuja Venum. The lakes, rivers, and hills of Vrindavan resounded with the sounds of maddened bees and flocks of birds moving about the flowering trees. In the company of the cowherd boys and Balaram, Madhupati, Sri Krishna, entered that forest, and while herding the cows, he began to vibrate his flute. As suggested by the words, Shukuja Venu means Lord Krishna skillfully blended the sound of his flute with the lovely sounds of Vrindavan's multicolored birds. Thus, an irresistible heavenly vibration was created, Tadbrajastriya Shrutya Venugitam Smarodayam Kaschit Paroksham Krishnasya Swasakhibhyo Anavarnayan. When the young ladies in the cowed village of Braja heard the song of the Krishna's flute, Venugitam, which arouses the influence of Cupid, some of them privately began describing Krishna's qualities to their intimate friends. Tadvarnayitum arabdhaha smaranteha Krishna cheshtitam nashakan smaravegena vikshipta manaso nrupa. The cowed girls began to speak about Krishna, but when they remembered his activities, O king, the power of Cupid disturbed their minds, and thus they could not speak. Varha pidam natavaravapu karnayor karnikaram bipradvasa kanaka kapisham vaijayantim chamalam randran veno radara sudaya apurayan gopavrindai vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishadgita kirti. Translation: wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head. So this particular verse describes Krishna's form and how he is entering the Vrindavan forest. So we can focus on the translation. He is wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnika flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and a Vaijayanti garland. Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. So reading the translation again, wearing the peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnika flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. Purport: the gopis remembered all the transcendental qualities of Krishna mentioned in this verse. Krishna's artful way of dressing and the beautiful blue flowers placed over his ears excited the gopis' romantic desires, and as he poured the nectar of his lips into his flute, they simply lost themselves in ecstatic love for him. So begging again the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, Adipurush Prabhu, so that I can speak something for the pleasure of Shri Shraddha Mullidhar Gaur Chandra and all his devotees, and for the purification of our hearts also. So here the first verse, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that the Vrindavan forest was filled with transparent autumnal waters, and there was cool breezes, and the cool breezes were not just cool, but they were also having the fragrance of lotus flowers. Lotus flowers has a very subtle, sweet smell. So just imagine the breeze is carrying the subtle, sweet smell of the lotus flowers that are blooming in these lakes, which are very filled with clear waters. Because it is autumn, the waters have become very clean. So we all in this world try to create atmosphere like this. In the entrance of a building, you see ACs blasting, they're having all these air fresheners and pumped in. However, naturally, Vrindavan forest is filled with such facilities, and that's where we are copying from. We are trying to create a Vrindavan-like atmosphere for sense gratification, but that does not work well. The ACs create global warming, and when you go out, it's much more hot than it is inside. So, however, Vrindavan forest is like filled with natural opulence. So the infallible Lord, accompanied by his cows and cowherd boyfriends, entered that Vrindavan forest. When he is entering the Vrindavan forest, the gopis are at their homes. They are not along with him, because the boys are entering the forest, and the scene that is they are entering into is the forest is filled with so many lakes, rivers, and hills, and not just lakes, rivers, and hills, but also with the sounds of maddened bees. Why are the bees mad? They have drunk so much honey. There's so many flowers in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is filled with flowers, and it's so beautiful both in its colors, and it's also in its fragrance, and also these flowers are so sweet. They have also honey. So the bees have drunk so much honey that they are maddened, and the flocks of the birds are also moving about the flowering trees. And in this way, there is a nice orchestra going on already. So Krishna is joining the orchestra by the bees and the birds. And how does he join? He is actually picking up his flute and he begins to vibrate his flute and he matches the sounds. He blends in with the sounds that is already there in the forest. And who's hearing the flute of Krishna? The gopis are hearing, where they are actually in the village. They are not in the forest, but they are hearing the song from wherever they are. Immediately they are, the feelings of love for Krishna is invoking in their heart. They are immediately remembering Krishna, missing Krishna. In separation, they are feeling agitated. So, and then they immediately, how do they mitigate their separation from Krishna? Immediately they start speaking about Krishna's qualities. So how they're not just speaking to themselves. Of course, that could also be done, but they are speaking to their intimate friends. Like misery loves company. So here, but this is actually spiritual separation. So this also loves company. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always kept Swarupa Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai next to him, and they were reading the songs of Chandidas and other poets. In this way, he actually mitigated his feelings of separation. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the same thing, and here the gopis, they immediately speaking to their intimate friends to mitigate the feelings of separation from Krishna. And they are speaking about Krishna, and when they remember his activities, their minds become even more disturbed. So imagine you would like to enjoy something in this world, and you're like, suddenly you're remembering, wish I had that. And if you start thinking more about it, it's only going to create the agitation more. So here they are remembering Krishna, and it's becoming more for them because they are feeling the pain, like we are really missing Krishna. So it's disturbing them more, that to the extent that they could not even speak, they become completely stunned in ecstasy, that they are not even able to speak, that they are missing Krishna. And in a situation, they are remembering Krishna. How is he entering the forest? They are not there personally, but they are remembering. How they are remembering Krishna's form. Naturally, because they are so attached to Krishna, hearing the flute song, they have already Krishna's form has come to their minds. So that is why when we actually purify our hearts and chant the name, eventually form, qualities, and the pastimes will naturally manifest. The names of Krishna has that. And here Krishna is personally sending the flute song for the gopis, and hearing that, they're immediately remembering the form of Krishna. How is the form of Krishna? He's wearing a peacock feather on his head, and he's wearing a blue lotus flower. So he's having a blue lily on his ears, and a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and he's having a Vaijayanti garland, the garland which has multiple color flowers. So he's wearing that, and he is like looking like a dancer. He's decorated so nicely, and he's entering this forest of Vrindavan. And the Vrindavan forest is already very beautiful, but the most beautiful aspect of Vrindavan forest is it contains the footprints of Krishna. So the biggest aspect of Vrindavan forest, the biggest part of its beauty is that it has the footprints of Krishna. So similarly, our lives could be externally, however it is beautiful, if it is not carrying the footprints of Krishna. If a person is not a devotee, externally they may have wealth, they may have beauty, they may have perfect partner, everything can be there. But when devotional service comes into picture, when Krishna's footprints are in our life, then it actually becomes sweet. Imagine a family where people are coming together to chant about Krishna. How sweet it is. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, I come back home and seeing bhajan going on, I see Vaikuntha there, I see Vrindavan there. So similarly here, Krishna is beautifying the forest of Vrindavan with his footprints, and he is filling the holes with the flute with the nectar from his lips. Adhara Sudaya. So he is having Sudaya, means Sudha is nectar. So Adhara Sudaya, his lips have nectar. And he is pouring that nectar into into the flute. And the cowherd boys are singing his glories. And this is what the gopis are remembering wherever they are. And they are completely stunned in ecstasy. So this is the picture that Srila Shukadeva Goswami is painting today for us. That he is transporting us to Vrindavan, where gopis are remembering Krishna. And just by remembering, they're completely stunned in ecstasy. And what they're remembering the beautiful form of Krishna and how he's playing into this, into the flute. And I wanted to speak few things. It's already 8:50. Just explaining the translation. So let's see if we can share some insights from these verses. Here, the first verse is speaking about the autumnal rain, lakes, which is very clear. So as soon as I read that, I am remembered of certain verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, which speaks, how can our hearts become clear like an autumnal river? That is when we can actually receive Krishna. So, Pravishta Karna Randrena Swanam Bhava Saroruham Dunoti Shamalam Krishna Shalilasya Yatasvara. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna is what? It is Srimad Bhagavatam. Enters into the heart of a devotee. So when the sound incarnation of Krishna enters into the heart of a devotee, so we need to make sure it enters our heart. So when it enters, then Krishna sits in the form of the sound vibration. He sits on the lotus flower on the heart of his devotee, and he cleanses the dust of material association. So Krishna picks up the broom and cleans our heart. We don't externally need to do. Our endeavor is to throw ourselves into the Srimad Bhagavatam and make sure it enters our heart. That means we need to take shelter. We need to beg when we read, when we hear, that let this sound vibration, Krishna, please enter my heart. That's all we need to do. Our endeavor is that we make sure the holy name enters our heart, the Bhagavatam enters our heart. That means entering our heart means we need to have a proper desire. Heart is the seat of our desires. So our desire is that I want to achieve love of Krishna. So our desire is I want to be a perfect servant of my spiritual master. I want to be a qualified servant of the Vaishnavas. That is the desire. When we have that desire and we understand we don't have the ability, we are battered by lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion. We are continuously tormented by these things in our hearts. So we understand it's just not in my own ability. It's just not in my own ability I can get rid of these things. So we pray when we chant the holy names, when we actually hear and read Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, that please let this sound vibration, oh Krishna, please enter my heart. And Krishna actually, when he enters, he cleans. He is all pure. When he goes, the place becomes clean. So he clears the material association in our hearts. And how our hearts become? It becomes like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water, because the lakes are muddy. But when the autumnal rains fall, after the rainy monsoon season, the ponds are like fully, like literally muddy in color. If you see in tropical countries, you can see in after a heavy monsoon season, the water is brown in color, literally. And when the autumnal rains fall, immediately you see the waters become actually clear. So similarly, our hearts are so muddy, filled with the mud of lust, anger, pride, illusion. It's so difficult for us to filter. The filters that we have at home, they don't work in that situation. They get clogged. However, when the autumnal rains fall, naturally it settles all the mud. Similarly, when Krishna's holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam enters our heart, it can actually settle all those things. So, Yashyam Vaishruyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktirutpadyate Pumsam Shoka Moha Bhayapaha. So, Yasyam Vaishruyamanayam, when we hear about Krishna, we receive bhakti. Bhaktirutpadyate Pumsam. Bhakti actually manifests in our hearts. But the side effect is Shoka Moha Bhaya. All these things goes away. The side effect of hearing about Krishna is all our unnecessary lamentation, all our unnecessary illusions, attractions, and the fear that comes forth because of illusory attachments and lamentation. We have fear, and all these three things actually go away by hearing about Krishna. So that is one theme that I wanted to touch upon, that how by hearing about Krishna, our hearts also can become clean like these autumnal rains. The other thing that while reading these translations came to my mind is like, okay, are the gopis lusty like normal beings? Because the word lust carries a certain connotation. So if you come from a certain country, if a particular word, like if you come from India, if someone tells me biscuit, it's a different thing. That's what I grew up considering certain thing as a biscuit. And I come here to the West, and here someone says, would you like to have a biscuit? I'm like, wow, I'm going to have a biscuit. And they give me something. I'm like, is this biscuit? No, I did not grow up thinking this as biscuit. So the name is same, but the content is different. Similarly, we all know lust means what? There's nobody needs to explain. We all have this experience of lust. So as soon as we think, oh, the gopis are having lust, oh, come on, they are also having lust. Should we feel good about ourselves or should we feel bad about them? What is this? What is the feeling we should get? Oh, I also have lust. Gopis also have lust. There's no problem. Are we supposed to think like that? Or we think, oh, I'm having lust and the gopis are also having lust. They are also very normal. So we are not supposed to think like either way. Because the lust of the gopis and the lust of the conditioned souls in this world is categorically different. I'm not sure if I can recollect the verse perfectly. Krishnendriya Preeticha Dhare Premanam means Chaitanya Charitamrit Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says Atmendriya Preeti Vancha Bhana Dhare Kama means the name of the attitude to enjoy my own senses is called as lust. But the pure desire to please Krishna's senses is called as prema. So what the gopis are experiencing is prema. So there is this nice section in the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 where Shukadeva Goswami speaks how Krishna is engaging in pastimes with the queens of Dwarka. So anybody may think, oh, Krishna is a henpecked husband. He's just playing with his queens like anybody else. But here he clarifies, Uddama bhava pishuna malaval guhasa vridava loka nihato madano piyasam sammuhya chapam ajahat pramadotamaste yasyendriyam vimatitum kuhakai na shekuhu. Means, although the queens had like beautiful smiles and their glances would just make anyone go crazy in this world, but Cupid cannot conquer Krishna. Because usually we walk in the streets, the person is not even looking at us. The person is minding their business, but we look at them and we become agitated. But here, Cupid is looking at Krishna and the gopis. Like, let me actually make them bewildered. And here, Cupid does not need to do any effort to bewilder a conditioned soul. But here, he is putting all his efforts, the best of his arrows. He's shooting at the queens and Krishna. They're all not disturbed. Rather, looking at the queens, Cupid is getting bewildered. But Krishna is not at all actually agitated in his senses. So that's when Shukadeva Goswami is saying the common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. They think, oh, the Lord is also like me. Okay. See what is the effect of some beautiful smiles and glances. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. He is not affected because he is unattached. And Shukadeva Goswami is saying, what to speak of the Lord, even those people who do bhajan of the Lord, they become unattached. They become undisturbed by lust. What to speak of the Lord? By chanting whose name, by hearing about whose pastimes, the normal conditioned soul can cross over lust. What to speak of the Lord himself? How can be disturbed by lust? And that reminds me of this verse from the end of Ras Leela, the Falashruti of Ras Leela, the benefit of hearing Ras Leela. Shukadeva Goswami says, Vikriditam Vrajavadubi Ridam Cha Vishnoho Shraddhanvita Anushruniyad Atavarnayedyaha Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hrudrogamashu Apahinoti Achirena Dhiraha. Everyone wants to be a dhira. Everyone wants to be a sober person. And what is the quickest way to be a sober person? Here, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs, he is speaking about Ras Leela, with the young gopis of Vrindavan. If anyone hears from the authorized person and faithfully recites it, of the pastimes of Krishna with the young gopis of Vrindavan, he or she will attain Lord's pure devotional service. If the attitude is right. Because when we look at a movie, we identify being the hero or the heroine. Rarely someone identifies themselves with the villain. That's possible also. However, when we read Krishna's pastimes, we are not supposed to identify ourselves with Krishna. We are supposed to identify ourselves as the devotee of Krishna. If the pastime of Krishna and Sudama is there, we are supposed to identify ourselves as Sudama. Like, means, what can I learn from the attitude of Sudama? Not like when Krishna is enjoying with the gopis, oh, I'm also like Krishna. I also want to enjoy. So where do we actually identify? So that is what means faithfully hearing from the authority. By hearing from the proper authority, we know who we are, what is our position. While hearing Krishna's pastimes, we don't have this bewilderment in the head. Then Lord's pure devotional service will be able to attain. And thus, he will quickly become sober. When this person hears Krishna's pastimes properly, then they can become sober and they can conquer lust, the disease of the heart. So the disease of the heart, lust in this world, is not the gopis' lust. The gopis' lust is the natural condition of the soul in the spiritual world. But in this material world, that is the diseased condition of the heart. So other verses, reading about them, and Krishna is joining into the orchestra and playing the same flute sounds. And in this way, surrounded by his intimate friends, he is enjoying in the Vrindavan forest. And the cowherd girls, their minds are becoming completely overwhelmed by hearing the flute songs. So when they hear the flute song, they also sometimes become angry. Why? Because they are thinking, the flute is stealing the wealth of nectar from Krishna's lotus lips. What belongs to us? The nectar of Krishna's lotus lips actually belongs to us. But he is pouring that nectar into the flute. And this flute is not even keeping quiet. Okay, you are having an intimate moment with your lover, so keep quiet about it, right? But why do you make loud sound and announce to the whole world, I am receiving the lips of Krishna? So the flute is actually telling the whole world, I'm having this greatest fortune. Krishna is playing into my lips. So that is why the gopis are actually, why don't you actually keep quiet? And you're making us like more agitated by vibrating your sound loudly. So she's not only receiving the lips, she's not only stealing the wealth that belongs to us, but she's also shameless about it, announcing it to the whole world that I'm stealing someone else's wealth. And that is why they keep saying, okay, you are saying, and then
you take your coffee?
No.
Okay, somebody needs to mute themselves. Hare Krishna. So here the flute is actually announcing, oh, I'll continue to drink the nectar that belongs to you, gopis. What will you do? What can you do? You are so far. You cannot do anything. You cannot steal me away from Krishna. Krishna carries me always. The flute is very fortunate. Even when Krishna sleeps, he keeps the flute next to him. The flute is on his chest and he's sleeping with his flute embraced. And when he's not playing the flute, he is tucking it into his sackcloth. No, he does not keep it in the pujari room. So he hugs it when he is sleeping. It is in his sash. And in this way, the flute is always having the association of the Lord. The gopis, sometimes they have the association, sometimes does not. So that is why the flute is saying, oh gopis, what can you do? I'm always with Krishna. You cannot separate from me. I will continue to drink the nectar of Krishna's lips. What can you do? You cannot do nothing. So the gopis are becoming, okay, let's see. When time comes, we will steal you from Krishna and we'll break you. So you're thinking, you are the son of the bamboo. You're so low, but you're thinking yourself too high. It is in the mood of, this is called as utpreksha. This is in the mood of, this is transcendental anger. This is not the envy of this world. So please don't bring in social justice here, please. So here they're saying you're just a son of bamboo, but you are like acting as if a daughter of bamboo. You're acting as if you're a big person. So this is just like a mood of the gopis. So they are saying the Krishna should not be called as Gopinath hereafter. He should be called as Venunath, because he is spending all the time with the flute. He's not spending time with us. So in this way, they are agitated. They're speaking about Krishna, and we will see the further speakers will speak. What are the gopis speaking about Krishna amongst themselves? How they are remembering Krishna, and they are engaging in transcendental pastimes of ecstasy. So similarly, we have this opportunity to hear Krishna's flute. What will qualify us to hear Krishna's flute? First, we need to become silent internally. In the sense, the noise of lust, anger, envy, that actually stops us from hearing the holy name when we try to chant. So that is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina manedena kirtanya sadahari. So the biggest struggle in trying to chant the Hare Krishna mantra is that in our daily dealings, we cannot be humble, we cannot be tolerant, we cannot offer respects, we cannot not expect respect for ourselves. So it becomes very difficult to chant. So the biggest struggle in chanting Hare Krishna is we don't have the right attitude. So that is what we pray, that let me become humble, let me become tolerant. So see everything as Krishna's arrangement and tolerate. And offer respects, even if it is the biggest austerity. Let me try some or other. Let me be respectful. I may be the biggest rascal actually, but let me not act it out. I may be envious, but let me not act it out. I may be like having a tendency to just speak bad about anyone and everyone. Let me control it. So in this way, when we restrain ourselves and become voluntarily humble, tolerant, and offer respects to others, then we can actually sit and we can be quiet. We can be actually peaceful inside and silent. So where then in the screen of mind, there is no other noise. There is just immediately you can see Krishna's form like the gopis are remembering. Then you can chant. Oh, just we can focus. Okay, Krishna, please engage me in your service. Radharani, please engage me in the service. Then the mind is clear. There is no noise. But now I pick up my beats. Immediately there is noise. Why is she doing that? Why is he saying that? What is this person doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? What is happening here? What is happening in the world? Why is this? Why is that? There is only whys. There is no question of peace inside. So then there is no question of hearing what we are chanting. So it just blends into the noise of the heart, which is already so loud. So we need to create inner silence. And that's not possible without becoming humble, without becoming tolerant, and following the advice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then we can always chant. Even off the beats, we can chant. We'll be able to remember the holy name. The holy name will come like the flute song of Krishna is like reaching the gopis. Similarly, it will reach our hearts. Krishna will find our hearts. Krishna will give us remembrance. He says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is in our hearts. He can play flute within our hearts also. And we'll be able to hear it when the heart is very quiet, removed from these unnecessary disturbances. So Krishna is capable of giving us remembrance, but we need to qualify ourselves. And that, how do we qualify ourselves to Krishna, hearing Krishna's flute in our hearts, Krishna's holy name in our hearts, whether while chanting or while not chanting? That is possible only by voluntarily becoming humble, tolerant, offering respects, and practicing the process as given by the Guru and the Acharyas. By chanting the 16 rounds or whatever number of rounds we are chanting, becoming more stable, and not just chanting in one hand and the other hand doing things which are not healthy for the chanting process. We also have to endeavor to actually give up those things which are against devotional service, which are taking us away from Krishna. Endeavor. We don't need to achieve perfection on our own strength. Endeavor and try to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and chant sincerely. When Krishna enters our heart, he will make it easy. Lust will become insignificant if Krishna is in our hearts. Otherwise, it's one of the biggest impediment. Ego is the biggest impediment. But if we become sincere and beg to Krishna, so the acharyas are begging, Krishna, you can do anything. So there is this bhajan of Gopinath by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is singing, oh, to me, you can do everything. You can do everything. So why not actually purify my heart. Means how, otherwise I don't have any other strength. You are the Supreme Lord. You can do if you want. So please purify my heart. I don't have any ability. So I don't know what is devotion. I'm always completely absorbed in my materialistic mind. So I have fallen into this dark ocean. Please help me. Please pick me up. So you have, what does it means? If you are great, then you show your greatness by delivering me. So we place ourselves under Krishna's shelter and beg for this. At the same time, endeavor to chant. So then the Lord of Gopis, Gopinath, will hear our request also. Here the Gopis are hearing Krishna's flute. We will also become qualified to hear that flute song if we actually follow the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And they are actually giving us this wealth. So they are making us qualified. So but the only thing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking, Vishaya Chadiya Serase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Means give up sense gratification, immerse yourself in this nectar of the holy names. Vishaya Chadiya Serase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Just vibrate your tongue, which you are using for anything and everything, which can speak anything and everything, but use that tongue to actually vibrate the glories of Krishna. In the Govinda Damodara Ashtakam, the author is saying how Bilva Mangal Thakur is saying, means the people of this world are capable of using their tongue for everything except chanting Krishna's name. Vaktum samartho api na vakti kaschid. Vaktum samartho api na vakti kaschid. Aho jananam vyasanabi mukyam. Vaktum samartho api na vakti kaschid means they have the ability to chant, but no, they won't. Vaktum samartho api na vakti kaschid aho jananam vyasanabi mukyam. They are always absorbed in anxiety. Jihve metadeva Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Even though anyone is able to chant, still no one does. Alas, how determined people are for their own undoing. So we are determined actually to dig our own grave in this world by using our tongue, by vibrating so many other things. Oh tongue, just drink the nectar of the names of Govinda Damodara Madhava. So this is the advice of Bilva Mangal Thakur. So taking these Acharya's words, if we continue to chant Hare Krishna and stop offending devotees and blaspheming devotees and criticizing devotees and become sincere in our devotional pursuits, we will be able to hear Krishna's flute, and we will also be able to help others to hear Krishna's flute. The world is filled with problems, not because there is anything else other than the lack of Krishna consciousness. So there is top-down approach and bottom-down approach. Both needs to be there. So the bottom-down approach is we save ourselves and we also save as many people as possible. And when the legislation changes, when the government wakes up, then they'll also be able to, we can actually do activism and inspire the larger society and inspire the authorities and the leadership to actually make changes. But first, it should also start from our own personal life. So from our personal life, we change, and we change at the same time, we help others to change individually. At the same time, continue a fight to change the leadership. All needs to, both, Prabhupada did both. He changed the world individually, one person at a time. He made millions vegetarians. He made millions out of drug addiction. He brought millions out of gambling. No activist in the outside world would have achieved this much. Millions, just by spreading Krishna consciousness. And that is possible. So we never need to give up hope in the process of Krishna consciousness. Personally practice, become strong, live it, and then we'll be able to inspire others. And all the while, continue to exert positive influence on the world and the authorities and the leadership, so that they can wake up and understand the importance of Krishna consciousness. Whatever it may be, we may be squirrels, we may be Hanumans, but nothing is insignificant. Continue to make your life perfect and continue to inspire others to do the same. So in that way, we'll be able to actually follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and please him. We can give a smile to Prabhupada when we do that. So that should be we want to hear the flute song of Krishna. Before that, we need to make sure Prabhupada is smiling at us. Then the flute song of Krishna will find us also. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki ki jai. So any thoughts or sharings that here, Anand Adipurush Prabhu's here. Hare Krishna.
Wow, exquisite class. I mean, who can hold a candle to that subject matter except somebody like Gaura Sharan? The made a hilarious analogy that somebody from India might hear the word biscuit, and then somebody offers you a biscuit here, and it's different. So similarly, this is just reflecting on a very good point you made. The lust of the gopis is not like ordinary lust, like in the material world, and the envy of the gopis for the flute. A softer word might be admiration. They're admiring how the flute is giving pleasure to Krishna, and they want to please Krishna like that. And Krishna is so wonderful that just like he dances with every single gopi and gives himself to each one so that each one feels like Krishna's just with me. That Krishna is unlimited. And so the mood of Radharani is, this one is better devotee than me, Krishna. She loves you more than me. Take her to your heart, right? And we're like that also, that we feel like Krishna consciousness and devotional service is unlimited, and we can share it. So in the material world, you might feel some scarcity. Oh, he's got it. I don't get it, like that. But spiritually, Krishna is so wonderful that he can satisfy everyone. So there's a different, same terminology, envy or lust and biscuit, but there's a different meaning that we admire somebody who's pleasing Krishna, and we want to become like you when we grow up. Thank you very much. Oh, glory to Prabhupada.
Anybody else? Mangala.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking about some of the points you made on the importance of chanting. And Bhaktivinoda has this very nice saying about, when we get up in the morning to, beat the mind, with a shoe, because the mind is always accepting and rejecting. That's its business, accepting and rejecting, back and forth all the time, always disturbed. Well, at least my mind, I'm speaking for myself. But, and he also has this one, and one of the things I see now currently happening as one of the biggest distractions we have is these things, when we're trying to chant and then also trying to put attention into the phone. Here, this is our one-on-one contact with Krishna. This is an opportunity to really connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which very few people have this opportunity. And then a lot of times, we let ourselves go to this machine, which is not really enhancing our chanting. Actually, this thing should be locked in a safe somewhere. It just doesn't mix. It's like oil and water. They don't go together. They he just took my phone out of his shelf. They don't go together. The phone and chanting don't go together. Anyway, I'll wrap it up. And also, there's this. If you get an opportunity, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also has this one, and it's kind of desire, where he says chant anyway. That's another thing. A lot of times we find excuses. I can't chant because of this. My mind is distracted. It doesn't matter. There's absolutely no excuse for not chanting. Even if your mind is, it doesn't matter. Just chant anyway. And Bhaktivinoda has this wonderful thing, if you want to look it up, it's in the ISKCON Desire Tree, and it's called Chant Anyway. And he has a whole lot of complaints that you may come up with why not to chant. And it just, at the end of each of these sayings, it says, it doesn't matter, chant anyway. Because that's the most important thing, that's Krishna accepts our desire, even if it's not perfect. We're not perfect. And we're trying our best to achieve that goal. But while we're doing that, there's going to be a lot of challenges. So it's very nice. So if you're having difficulties, it's a very nice quote to look up. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else online? I see a hand raised with Venetia. Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for class. This is my first time hearing this pastime, and I've been anticipating it for some time. You know, it's like the cream of the cream of the cream. And anyway, to be continued. Hare Krishna. Is that the conch? Yeah, okay.
See, Venetia is a devotee. She won't talk over Radha Muladhar. Yeah, Venetia. Bhakti Devi has her hand up. Stick around for the afterglow, please, if you can. And turn your cameras on now. Darshan time. Jai. Nirvika. Gaura Sharan.
Hare
Beautiful.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Prabhupada.
Okay. Venetia and Bhakti Devi, please share.
Is Gaura Sharan still with us, or?
No. We have Bhima Prabhu. He's pretty.
No, I'm embarrassed almost to have such a neophyte question. I'm going to say this to the group. I'll say it again to Gaura Sharan. But so obviously, this is, the cream of the cream of the cream. And I think I joined this Srimad Bhagavatam morning class over a year ago. I think it was maybe. And I feel like everything has been leading up to this moment. And as I said, this is the first time I'm hearing this Leela. Like, I've intentionally not read it. I've not looked at it. I've been tempted, but have not looked at it because I really wanted to hear it unfold. I didn't read the first 9 cantos either. But I just wanted to tell Gaura Sharan that there is nobody I would rather have heard the first words of this Leela from. It was so perfect. And I just really appreciated it fully in my heart. And everything he said just went right through me. And I have just a very neophyte question that's somewhat embarrassing, but I was hoping to hear more about who is Cupid. And I'm just curious, like, what the conception is of Cupid, and what, that's the English word. It's like biscuit. What's the what's the translation, and who is Cupid was my question. But I can certainly hold it. It's not very profound. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venetia. So you did not read the previous 9 cantos?
I'm at the end of canto 1. It was so good I had to read it again. I'm reading it for the second time, canto 1. Nice. I'll get there, but
yeah. Srila Prabhupada said everything we need to know. He packaged everything in the first 2 cantos, I think.
Unbelievable nectar and richness and spiritual wealth. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Thank you. Bhakti Devi.
Haribol, so nice to see you. Venetia, it's not a neophyte question, because I was going to say, like Gaura Sharan's biscuit, when we hear Cupid in this country, we're not thinking of love of God at all. It has a completely different connotation. And my question was, does Cupid have its origins in the Vedic literature, or does Cupid show up somewhere else before that? I was just curious, because it's so funny how societies will pick and choose certain things and then totally twist them around, And also, I just wanted to echo what one of the devotees is saying, that cell phones and internet and credit cards are just, well, I added a couple things there, the worst inventions for humankind. So that's my wisdom for the day.
Thank you, Bhakti Devi.
Thank you.
Very profound, very profound. Very profound. Telephones, yeah, so many petty things that enslave us. Yeah. Bhima Prabhu, your paw is raised.
Haribo. Yes, that was a wonderful class. I'm hungry now because we're talking about biscuits and cream of the cream. And so on another note, Cupid's what makes the world go round. This material world and the spiritual world. From my readings, obviously, I remember there was a pastime of Prabhupada asking, I can't remember the devotee's name. It was perfect questions, perfect answers. And this devotee who was asking Prabhupada these questions was bringing up various philosophers of the Western world. And when it came time to ask about Sigmund Freud, who said that the sexual impulse, which is present everywhere, from the bees to the birds, to the horses, to the dogs, it's everywhere. And it's a reflection. Yeah. So Prabhupada, they said, oh, Freud was nonsense, the devotee said. Freud's nonsense. Says that everything is based on sexual desire. And they said, oh, that was nonsense. And Prabhupada said, no, Freud is right. I got a drum beat in the background there. Freud was right. So that's Cupid. Cupid is Kama Dev. And and he's in control of everybody. He actually plays in Vrindavan for Krishna and the gopis as well. And so it's a very romantic view to understand that. And this also helps us with getting over this material desire that we have that encompasses everything, is when we read Krishna's pastimes, a sort of a mystical thing takes place, and that we have juxtaposed the things that attract us in this world upon Krishna and the gopis. And that we understand that as Krishna is the reservoir of all strength and wealth and renunciation and intelligence, Krishna is also the reservoir of love and attraction. So we always have to remember not to reject anything, but use that thing, even if it is Cupid or Kama, to remind us that this all comes from one source, and that would be Krishna. But anyways, I ramble on. In my mind right now, I'm only thinking about biscuits and cream. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yeah, when we have Krishna Daya on the call, we can ask him about the origins of Cupid. He can give really nice background on Cupid, Kamadev. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Venetia, Bhakti Devi, Amish Prabhu, Isabel in the woods, Zakali, iPhone. You're the most terrible invention. I'm joking. Bruce Prabhu, Justi, Suzanne, Dana Krishnas Radharani, Preeti Chaturvedi, Yogeshwari, Amrita Kishori, and Pink Yogi of Harlem. Thank you very much. We love you all. Oh, Isabel in the car. All right. All right, Krishna. Have a wonderful day, dear devotees. A wonderful day, and come back tomorrow for another session.